So, guys, hello. What are the biggest mistakes that are making people keep belly fat? And this is something very, very common. It's a very common question. So, if belly fat doesn't respond to diet or to exercise, it's not because you're lazy. It's not because you're eating more. It's not because of these gurus that tell you that you are not making a caloric deficit. Because I know a lot of people, and I've seen patients throughout the years all over the world. I've seen more than 8,000 patients in my clinic. I've helped thousands of people. And a lot of people come to my office saying, I'm counting calories, I'm eating 1,000 calories, I'm eating 800 calories, and I'm not losing any belly fat or any fat in my cheeks or anywhere else. And this is not something about stereotypes. This is not about fashion. It's not about looks. This is about health. The thing is, your body, it's protecting itself. And this is something we need to remember. This is the same thing with your budget. If you're making, I don't know, $20 an hour, and then you come down to 15, you need to reaccommodate everything. So you're going to spend everything with $15 an hour. And if you bring it down to 10, you need to keep living, but you need to live with less. So that protection in your body is driven by signals, not by calories. So when you want to make a reset, the expectation needs to be very, very clear. So today I want to explain three basic things. First, why belly fat behaves differently from fat in other areas. Second, the common four mistakes. There are a bunch, but the most common mistakes that silently are blocking people from losing fat and from regaining your metabolism and your body in a good way. You need to remember that when you are putting fat in your body, you're inflaming your body. And finally, what actually tells the body that it's safe to let go all the fat. Again, this is not weight loss advice. I don't want to give you any weight loss advice. I want to teach you physiology. I want to teach you biochemistry. So you learn and you remember that fat, it was a mechanism of adaptation that we all humans have. That we have it so we can store fat for moments in life when we are not going to have enough fuel, enough food, so we can reconvert that fat into glucose to keep us alive. But when we have different processes throughout our body, that thing that was keeping us alive, that it was for protection, that it was like a hero, now it turns and becomes like a villain. So why belly fat? Sometimes it's different. And we need to remember that there is fat, that it's here, that it's that little Michelin that we take, that it's like through the skin. And there is also the fat that we have inside of our organs. So try to understand why belly fat is so stubborn. We need to start with one key fact. So abdominal fat is not passive storage, is metabolically active tissue. It's an inflamed tissue. It works mostly like an endocrine tissue. In fact, it's loaded with cortisol, which with the receptors from cortisol that respond to more stress than even to calories. It responds also to other hormones, even more than just the process of calories. We need to remember that food has calories the same way that it has grams. And if you want to measure it, it has meters or centimeters or inches or whatever. But the job of abdominal fat is to store energy quickly when the body perceives that you're in threat. That's why belly fat doesn't accumulate because you eat too much. There's people that don't eat that much, but they are very, very full of stress, different kinds of stress. It doesn't have to be only emotional stress. It could be stress from food. It could be stress because you don't sleep. It could be stress because you have a chronic infection. It could be stress because you have a bad microbiome. So it accumulates because your body believes in the need of protection. So which is mistake number one? Fighting the belly fat with more stress. And this is very common. So this is, to me, this is the most common mistake and the one that it's more damaging to people. So many people try to lose belly fat by doing more cardio, more restriction, more fasting, more restriction of calories, less sleep, more intense exercise. However, physiologically, all those signals mean the same thing. We are under threat. And this is very dangerous. As a result, cortisol stays elevated, insulin sensitivity drops, you become more resistant, fat loss shuts down, and especially inside of the abdomen. So instead of releasing belly fat, the body starts defending itself. The body is not dumb, guys. We have all the protection mechanisms, and again, this was a protection mechanism that now it's not protecting us, it's making us sick. In other words, you're asking your body to let go its insurance policy while acting like survival is at risk. It doesn't make any sense, right? So a stressed body doesn't burn up its backup fuel. Which is the backup fuel? Fat. That's why we stored it from the very beginning. So mistake number 2. And this is to bring chaotic blood sugar signals into the body. So the second mistake is focusing only on calories while ignoring the blood sugar stability, to ignoring that, yeah, again, food has calories, but it's not linked only because of calories. It's not the same if you eat 1,000 calories of broccoli than if you eat 1,000 calories of ice cream. It's completely different. Belly fat is tightly linked to insulin signaling, not just high glucose. Glucose, it's just that end product, but the one that handles where it's going to go and how it's going to work or how it's going to make all the damage is insulin by itself, or how insulin works, or how it's restricted the work that it does. So this often shows as frequent spikes and a big crash. It shows as reactive hypoglycemia, people that take some glucose and then they end up being dizzy. Late night eating, this is very common. Liquid calories that digest very fast, and people don't take into account that they are drinking a lot of sugar all the time. So when insulin is repeatedly elevated, fat storage stays blocked. The abdomen is insulin's favorite place to store energy. And take this, when you take glucose, most of the time it goes, before making fat, it goes through the liver, and then the liver exports that excess of glucose that you're not utilizing into fat. When you have insulin resistance, when your muscles are resistant, when your liver is resistant, when everything else is resistant, it goes directly, insulin can go directly to your fat to produce more fat. So even if total calories aren't high, unstable blood sugar keeps belly fat in place. Mistake number 3, you're not taking enough protein. And I see this all the time. The third mistake becomes especially important when people, maybe in their 30s or 40s. Protein is not just a building block, it's a metabolic signal, it's an endocrine organ. When protein intake is low, several things happen at once. You start losing lean mass, you start being metabolic rate starts being slower, satiety decreases, and cortisol goes up. As a result, the body becomes less efficient at it becomes more efficient holding into fat, especially there in the abdomen or in your butt. So that's why many people aren't failing to lose fat because they eat too much. They're failing because they're metabolically undernourished. And this is something very common. I go and give lectures all over the world. And whenever I ask people, and I give lectures, people like you, And I ask people, do you know the amount of protein that you should be taking? And almost everyone keeps their hands down. Why? Because we don't know. We are chronically protein deficient. When protein is insufficient or deficient, the body doesn't feel secure enough to release fat. Mistake number 4, when you have a dysregulated nervous system or when you sleep bad. So the 4th mistake is ignoring sleep and nervous system dysregulation. Even if mild sleep deprivation increases cortisol, it disrupts leptin. Remember that leptin is the hormone that tells your brain to stop eating, but it can overstimulate ghrelin. Have you seen that when you sleep wrong, next day you want to eat everything? You want to go for the Oreos, for the Doritos, for everything else? Because ghrelin, which is that hunger hormone, is going to be up. So you have excess of insulin, resistance to leptin, your brain doesn't hear to the signal to stop eating, and you have a lot of ghrelin too. That, of course, promotes visceral fat storage, and this is very, very dangerous. So in fact, poor sleep can mimic insulin resistance, even in people who eat well. That's why you cannot out-diet dysregulated nervous system. When people are chronically sleeping bad or when they're chronically stressed, they don't lose fat at all. And you see it all the time. And they train and they eat well and they fast and they take supplements and they do everything and they're locked. Very often, stubborn fat isn't a problem in the diet at all. It's a sleep problem disguised. So why exercise alone doesn't make people lose fat? And this is something you need to remember, and is that from all the energy expenditure that you have throughout the day, exercise, maybe it's going to be 15 or 20%. The rest is your basal metabolic rate, 80%. And that one comes from what you do with inflammation, what you do with your hormones, all the hormones in your body that manipulate how energy is used in your body. So exercise is a very important signal, but it's not a guarantee. I'm not saying you don't need to train. Of course you need to train. Of course you need muscles. When exercise is excessive, poorly recovered from, a body that is poorly recovered or focused only on cardio, it adds more stress and it doesn't remove body fat at all. Without recovery, resistance training and nervous system balance exercise simply reinforces that same threat, that same signal, and is going to keep over and over. It's going to do the same thing as chronic stress, and it's going to do the same thing as the lack of sleep. That's why some people train harder and harder and harder, and they get leaner, or sometimes they're locked, or sometimes they get leaner, but they keep that belly fat. And probably you've seen it a lot of times. So what actually is that thing that tells the body to release body fat? So what is that thing that actually works? So the body releases abdominal fat when key signals normalize, when cortisol calms down, when your insulin becomes predictable, when it starts working again, when protein intake is sufficient, when sleep is deep, good, and regular, and for a good amount of time, when the training and all the signals are received as something good, as something healthy, and not as panic. So fat loss doesn't happen through punishment, through excess. I'm going to fast more and more and more. If you are not losing fat and you started fasting and you started doing all these things and you're not losing, if you fast more, you're going to retain more. You lose belly fat when your physiology is working for you, not against you. And also, some people say, I lost some belly fat or some body fat, and then I recovered it. You want to know why? It makes a lot of sense, and it explains why belly fat returns, because people lose weight, but they never change the signal. Sometimes people do some extreme fasting, they lose some weight, and they start eating again, and they put it back. They go into a crazy diet. They don't know how is the diet not being crazy, because they go into a crazy diet, they lose fat, and then the body adapts to that same way. And when you try to go back to something very normal, your body is going to go back again. If you don't fix the basic things that are keeping you fat, if your stress returns, if your sleep worsens, if your protein drops, if your blood sugar destabilizes again, the body quickly reverts to protection mode, and then you're going to start building fat again. Your body remembers that threat faster than it remembers success. So that's why people say, I made this big effort for 6 months, and then I went into vacation for a month, or I have this new job, or I ended up with my couple, and boom, back again, just 1 month. 6 months to the garbage. Now I'm back again, having that stubborn belly fat. So guys, belly fat isn't stubborn. It is responsive. What you need to remember is that your biology, when it feels safe, your waist follows. When you fix the signals, the body goes and tells you and go the path that it needs to go. So guys, again, a lot of people are struggling all the time trying to think, which is the best diet? Should I go keto? Should I go carnivore? Should I go? No, you need to go back and put back physiology into place. You need to put all of your habits first. You don't need to go crazy for crazy medications or for crazy supplements or for crazy diets or for crazy restrictions. First, you need to put everything into place. This is like a Christmas tree. You first have the tree, and then you put the ornaments. All the craziness, all the supplements, all the medications, they are the ornaments. If you don't have the tree, if you don't have a good foundation, nothing is going to happen. And you're going to be like a yo-yo, all the time going up and down. And after seeing a lot of patients, this is probably most of the 4 most common mistakes. So guys, remember, this is not about calories. This is about physiology. This is about habits. And this is about bringing them into a very easy and simple way in which you can recover to be the owner of your health. So guys, thank you so much. Thanks for watching this video. Please let me know all of your comments, because with all of your comments, we do all of this content. I'm very happy to be back again here with you guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Big hugs. Ciao, ciao.